Hello and welcome back to the Immigrant Programmers channel. My name is Kritika and recently we did a collaboration with Sid Palace from the DevOps Directive YouTube channel, and it was on his channel, and thank you so much Sid for inviting us over and teaching us a lot about DevOps. So basically in this collaboration, Sid helped us to deploy our funny Discord bot onto AWS. So we basically took our funny Discord bot off of Replit, which was a temporary solution. It was a temporary deployment solution that we did, but now we have permanently hosted or deployed it onto AWS using a lot of Sid's help, of course. But before I tell you something about this video, if you don't get my reference on the funny Discord bot, you got a lot of catching up to do. So go check out our video on how we created our own Discord bot. The link is down in the description below. So this video is just a summary or a step-by-step, if you will, on how we deployed our Discord bot onto AWS. So if you, just like us, want to learn a lot about DevOps in AWS with the DevOps Directive himself, first you gotta smash the like button, the subscribe button, and you shall proceed.
So this is the Replit code. It's less than 50 lines of code. It's pretty simple. All we are doing is we just connected to the Discord client. We are using an API to fetch some jokes. And whenever someone posts a message on Discord, when they post like a string like joke, or they post funny, we just fetch a joke from the API, and hopefully, they will see it over here.
Cool. The goal today then is going to be to take this and provision a virtual machine running in AWS. So that'll be an EC2 Elastic Compute instance. Yeah. We will likely use something like Ubuntu as the operating system. We'll need to get your source code onto that machine. We'll need to install the necessary dependencies, so Node.js and anything else that we need, and then launch it. And so initially, we're going to try to do this manually. So we're going to do everything just sort of step by step to show everything that goes into doing this. And then ideally, if we can succeed at that in not too long a time, we will actually try to move to GitHub Actions and automate the deployment such that with any change to the code base, we can bundle that up and build those changes and get them pushed automatically. The console on AWS is a little bit overwhelming. So let's see, if we go into categories on the left there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's all these different categories. We probably just want...
this looks right.
So this is what I was expecting to see. Here we go.
Okay.
Just click on, let's go down to the launch instance button there, the orange button at the bottom. Yeah, cool. And so it's giving us lots of different options here. Why don't you just search for Ubuntu at the top? And so these are what are known as AMIs, Amazon Machine Images. It's essentially a operating system bundled up, ready to deploy onto an EC2 instance. So I don't know if you have a preference between which version of Ubuntu we want to use. What version or what operating system are you running locally?
It's
Windows
a
Mac. Mac. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So it doesn't really matter. Let's just choose the latest long-term support. So that one at the top, the 20.04, 64-bit, x86. Looks good. And so this is a really tiny application. It's not going to need too many resources. We could probably even get away with the T2 Nano. So why don't we go up to that top one?
Okay.
I believe. Oh, actually, since I think only the T2 Micro is in the free tier. So if you just signed up, we should have credits available to run a T2 Micro. I think for an entire year before they would start charging you for it.
Yeah.
And then after that, it would cost I think like $3 or $4 a month. And so that's a good one to get started. And one vCPU and 1 gigabyte of memory should be plenty for this application. So I think that should be good to go.
So review and launch or next?
Yep. Let's review and launch. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go ahead and press launch.
Okay, and so this is going to be how we actually connect to the device with a SSH pair. And so you might have one locally. You could either upload one into AWS, or we can just create one on the fly here. So why don't we go ahead and create a key pair?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice camel case. Yeah.
And you do want to download it such that you'll be able to use it locally to connect. But then don't open that on screen. So now if you do, we have a key pair, and it will essentially put that key pair, the public key, onto the instance such that when you try to SSH into it, it will be able to validate that you are indeed who you say you are.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and click launch.
Launch.
Let's go to view instances, that bottom right, and it should kind of give us a status as it comes online.
So when we were on the first page, it was checking which location are we connected to. Does it matter much? It was in Ohio when we started.
Yeah, so right now you see that availability zone on the right-hand side, US East 2B.
Yeah.
So that's telling us which location, which availability zone is the terminology, or which location or which data center this is located in. It matters because the further you are from the data center, the longer the latency will be. So if, let's say, if we had chosen some data center in India, it would be much slower to make these requests and send them back.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that the Discord data centers are on the East Coast. So it might have been ideal to choose one of Amazon's East Coast locations. For our purposes, it'll add milliseconds to the request. So it's not a huge deal. But if you did have a high load application and you wanted to make sure that latency was low, you would want to make sure to have potentially have deployments of your application close to the end users.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
And let's say if this Discord server goes to the moon and millions of people are using it from
correct, right?
and millions of people are using it from all over the world. Well, then will we have, let's say, the primary users are in US and in India. Then will we have two versions or two instances running, one in India to serve those users quickly and then one in US? Is that possible, or is that all? I'm talking like a stupid person.
No, that's a very good question. I think the one complication in this case is that your Discord server is likely physically located somewhere. And so we want your application to be as close to that Discord server application as possible.
Okay.
And it's less important where the end user is, because the end user already has to communicate to that Discord server, right?
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Okay. But sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I was going to say, if it was a different application, you might want to have multiple instances running in multiple places to be closer to the end users. If there's large static content, oftentimes you'll use a CDN, or a content delivery network. And so Amazon has that, all the major clouds have those, and that will actually stage those large files. So let's say it's a big media file, a video file. It would stage that at locations all around the world. And so then maybe your API server is centrally located, but when it needs to pull in those big media files, it can do so from a much closer, faster location.
Yeah, a CDN works like a cache.
Yep, exactly. So it moves the large data files close to the end user, such that you're not trying to pull a gigabyte of video from Ohio all the way to wherever.
Yeah.
Cool. So we accomplished step one. We have an instance. It is running on Amazon. So now we need to actually connect to this thing. There's a few different options. One, we have that SSH key, the key pair that we downloaded. We also, I think there's just sort of a web console. If you click into that instance ID, we can use this EC2 instance connect. So that'll just allow us to connect directly from the browser. We also can use an SSH client, which is probably what we'll eventually want to do. That's how we'll be able to copy the code in with an SCP command. We'll probably do the same from GitHub Actions eventually. So if you wanted to, you could just click that connect just to see how it works. And it should just bring up a terminal in the browser. We could even, since it's just one file, we could cheat and just copy the code from our local system and paste it in on the browser. But let's go ahead and connect via SSH so that we can do that SCP command, or an rsync, either one. Let's go ahead and exit out of the browser terminal. Click on the SSH client tab there, and it should just give us instructions on how to use the key file.
Yeah. So we ran this command.
Okay. So that command is basically going to change the permissions on that .pem file, such that the SSH command is going to be able to actually read it. So it's going to essentially check the fingerprint of that machine. It takes a hash of some configuration. And so that allows you to know if someone has modified the machine for any reason. This would change the fingerprint, and then it would stop you from doing something. So if there was some malicious actor that had gotten a hold of your Amazon account and modified it in some way, this fingerprint would change, and you would then be able to detect that. In this case, it is what it is. We want to accept it, And then moving forward, we shouldn't get this warning anymore. But that is something that we'll need to take into account when we move to GitHub Actions, because that first time that we SSH in, we will need to actually have set that known hosts such that we don't get that prompt and we can already pre-accept it. We'll probably have to do an apt update before we can install Git. Yeah, we can do it as sudo. So now we still that just got us the latest packages. We still need to do sudo apt install Git.
Then we go and get clone.
Clone and then grab the repo. And so since it's a public repo, we should just be able to put it in with no credentials. And that is good. And so now we should have a repo.
Funny
yes,
Discord bot.
We have it.
So let's change directory into that. Just run node. I don't know if it'll be installed by default. Probably not.
I think we're gonna have to install it. Yeah.
Yeah. If we cared about a specific version, we would probably want to use something like npx, which will allow you to get a particular version and manage that. We will also probably need npm. So npm.
Yeah.
Your app is expecting the Discord token as an environment variable, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you go off screen with your terminal and do an export and then whatever the name of the environment variable is, and then equals the value. We can do one thing to run it in the background right away. We can do what's called nohup, NOHUP, and so that will tell Docker, don't execute it yet, but that will tell, the shell that we want to detach the execution of this program that we're about to run from the current shell session. So if we log out from our current Ubuntu shell, it would not kill that program. So then do space node index.js and then the and sign afterwards. We accomplished our first milestone. Like I said, we probably want to run it with like a nohup command in the background. The other thing that I'll suggest is a process manager called PM2, which is a Node.js package process manager that gives you some nice things like you can have multiple instances of your app with a load balancer in front of it. You can do things like monitor to make sure it's healthy. So if we wanted to, we could do that. It might be a good idea. Or we could jump right to the Discord, the GitHub action. What do you think? So let's do the PM2 thing.
Okay, sure.
So why don't you just Google PM2 in the browser on the left, and we'll just get the instructions on how to install it. I think it's just going to be an npm install. Hopefully this might be where we run into Node being too old. Yeah, so let's just globally install it with npm. Cross our fingers and hope that Node 10 is not too ancient.
Okay.
Permission denied. Okay, I guess
we just need to do a sudo.
When in doubt, sudo.
Yeah. Cool.
We basically just do from within this directory PM2 and then start and then index.js. And so now PM2 is managing that process. It should be running just fine in depending on whether the environment got picked up, that environment variable, but it looks like it came online successfully. So let's check in Discord, make sure.
Okay.
Cool. So PM2 is working. We're running.
Yes.
So one thing we might want to do is provide a name for the app when we start it. So we just did PM2 start index.js, and so it named our app index. Index is not really that meaningful of a name. So why don't we do PM2 stop index? It stopped it, but it's still listed there, right? So we can actually delete that just to clean it up. So PM2 delete index.
Yeah. Now we don't have anything.
Now it's gone. And then let's go ahead and start it again and name it Discord bot or whatever you want to name it. So we now have our new discordbot.js named app. Okay, it is online. It seems to be working just fine. So why don't we go ahead and start working on an action? They have an interface to edit the actions directly in the browser. You could also edit it in VS Code or whatever your code editor of choice is. Either one is fine. Great. So to create a action, you need to create, I believe it's a .workflows directory. Sorry, it's a .github directory at the top level. So create a new directory in your top level.
Okay.
And name it .github. And then create a directory within that called workflows. And so this is where GitHub will look for any configurations for various workflows. And then within this directory, any file that we put in there, and these will be YAML files, will get picked up as potential workflows that it's going to try to run, depending on the different triggers that you have.
Okay.
And so let's just create, I'm sure there's like a hello world action that we can find on the GitHub website that'll give us just a very simple thing that's going to run when we push to the main branch, and it'll print something to console, and that'll be a good start. Here, I'll just, there's a repo that I made called Stupid Actions, where I did a bunch of stupid stuff in GitHub Actions. And so I will paste you a link.
Okay, there we go. Okay, yeah, this looks much.
There's lots of stupid actions in that repo, so people should go check it out. It's pretty fun. Let's just call this one like deploy.yaml, just because that's what we're going to do. I think it could be YAML or just YML.
YML works too.
Yep, you put 2 periods though. Yep.
Yeah.
Paste it in.
I copied it. Yep.
And so then the one thing we need to modify is the on push. So we want to do it whenever we push to the main.
Master.
Is it main or master?
Oh, I guess GitHub renamed
recently,
it to
it'll be main. Okay,
oh,
so it's master.
It's still master.
Okay.
Yeah, change this one to
Yeah.
master. Perfect. The name Hello World is fine, I guess.
Yeah, so that should be good. Name, yeah, I mean, you can name it deploy because that's what we're eventually going to do with it. But for now, Hello World makes sense.
Okay.
And so it's basically just saying every time that we push to the master branch in this repo, we're going to run these jobs. And the job is running on Ubuntu latest. So it's just running in an Ubuntu, I believe it's in a container. And then it's going to run these steps. And there's only one step. And that step just says echo hello world. So what we should expect is that when we commit this, in the actions tab, we'll have this action triggered. We can go in and see hello world printed out in the logs. And that will be good.
So I guess if you wanted it to deploy it to a staging server and a production server, we would have 2 different jobs for that. Is that correct?
You could have 2 different jobs, or within the job, you could have logic that would check like or set some environment variables differently, or choose a different deployment target. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Great. So yeah, let's just go ahead and
just commit this change.
Commit and push. So yeah, let's go to the Actions tab now. So the code is there. That's good. GitHub Workflows.
Okay.
Actions tab, feature GitHub Actions init. Click into there and we can see the logs. We now have this action, this workflow set up. What steps do we need to take within the workflow? So let's go back to the workflow and just add some comments to say like what the workflow actually needs to do. So first we'll probably want to SSH into that machine. Then we'll need to, and we may just want to send remote SSH commands. So like with the SSH in Linux or Mac, you can either SSH and then get an open terminal, or you can send one command or multiple commands to be executed. So we might end up just doing that instead. In order to do that, as Ali pointed out, we will need to configure our SSH key in GitHub Actions as a secret. There's 2 options. I think we could either use our key as is. That's probably the simplest just to get started. Or we could store an AWS credential and grant that AWS account. We could create a specific account and basically tell it only to have access to our virtual machine. We could use that to authenticate. I think for now, let's just use the secret key that we already have and put it as a, use that to authenticate.
So we need to bring it up in this directory, or?
No, so we'll actually put it into GitHub as a secret. So go back to the GitHub interface.
Oh, okay.
So they have a whole system configured for this. So if we go to settings and then secrets down there towards the bottom.
Okay.
And so this is, manage environments and secrets. Start out.
Add secret.
Yep.
Oh, we have to paste the value.
Yeah, so that we can do off
bring
screen.
it. Yeah.
Before we do that, let's just search for like GitHub action SSH and find an action that will send those SSH commands for us. Let's use latest version. It should just give us that command. And so now we'll copy that into our action file.
Okay.
And we'll probably want to pull up this side by side with that.
Okay.
Yeah. And indentation does matter in YAML, so we'll need to get the indentation right. It's actually just giving us the option to do a username and password instead of the SSH key. So that might be a simpler way to get it working quickly. So let's add a password for the Ubuntu user. And then I believe it'll ask you what it is. We're adding a password for that user, and then we're modifying the SSHD configuration to enable password authentication.
Okay.
Cool. So now we need to restart the SSH service. So keep going down to step 4 or 5, I think.
Let's try. Okay.
I have to enter the password I just created?
Yeah.
I forgot. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Wasn't it password? So you want me to type exit?
Yep.
Okay.
And now let's try to SSH in with that password. So SSH, actually just press the up key once.
Yeah.
And then get rid of the office hours PEM key. Get rid of the I, sorry. That's working locally. And so now what we need to do is add those things as secrets in the GitHub repo. So let's go ahead and do that.
Sure.
Go to the
I'll go
YAML
back to
file.
the...
Underneath uses, I think we can do env.
Hostname.
Perfect.
And the password we're going to create as a
password,
secret.
we're going to create it as a secret. And actually, honestly, I probably would have created the host name as a secret too, now that I think about it, just because that way people don't actually know what server you're running on. Repository secret there.
Okay.
And then off screen, you're going to add the password.
Yes.
Cool. And so now within our workflow, I believe we actually need to pull those in. And so we're going to add to the YAML file. Now we'll add host here. But then we'll use double brackets secrets.host, and it'll load it from the GitHub secrets.
And the same for the password, right?
Same for the password, yeah. Because we're not consuming these as environment variables, because they're actually input variables to this action or to this workflow, instead of using the env, we're going to use the with command. And so that will pass these values as inputs rather than storing them in the environment, which is actually preferred here. So we'll switch that to...
And do we also need the dollar sign that they used for variables?
Where did they use it? On the secrets?
Over here?
Yeah. In front of
maybe,
the double brackets.
Yeah, maybe we do. And let's go ahead and maybe remove that comment at the bottom. All right, we've got our hello action. We got a green check mark. That's a good sign.
Nice.
Go into SSH remote commands. It looks like it successfully ran that command on our system. Now, really all we need to do is, instead of running who am I, we need to come up with some set of commands that will do what we said, right? Clone, pull the latest version. Yep. In order to do multiple lines, we can just add that vertical bar.
Pull.
And then let's do an npm install.
.js, and then I'm going to restart a new one.
So I think, let's go, we've got pm2 stop discordbot.js. Then we want to do pm2 start index.js. But the other thing we realized is that when we first SSH in, we're in the home directory. and we need to actually change directory into the Git
Okay.
project. So that'll be the very first thing.
So CD.
So I guess
Makes
we
sense.
go into the folder, we do a git pull, npm install. We don't have any test. Ideally, I guess we would run test first before doing anything else. But for us, we just
So
stop
normally,
it and then start.
if we were doing tests, we would actually probably do that in a different step than the GitHub action. So before we even got to this deploy step, we would have a whole separate step that ran our test within the action itself.
Okay, that's interesting. So I guess if the test failed, we won't even go to this action.
Exactly. Yeah. So you would want the action to fail before you got to the deploy step if you had a test failure. So that could be another sort of extension after the fact. And there is the new one. Oh, we should change the name of the.
Yeah. Hello.
But it looks like.
CAD process successfully stored.
Looks like we succeeded.
It worked.
So now,
How
do we? Yeah, we can change.
Let's first change the name of our action because it's no longer hello world. So in deploy.yaml, we have hello world. Let's name it something else. I think they're all lowercase is the convention on this, but deploy is fine. Whatever.
Yeah. Okay, looks good. And just to see if it actually changes, I'll just add.
Maybe before you print the joke, could you append something to the beginning of the joke that you get back or something?
Too late.
I mean, this is a deploy test. That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so
yeah, it'll take a few minutes to run.
Launch Discord bot.
Got the new name. Launch Discord bot on AWS instance.
Please.
Please. Fingers crossed emoji.
Yes.
Okay, so it says it ran. Should I go to Discord?
A joke.
Okay, the final test.
Ooh.
Yes, yeah, that's amazing. But I am actually surprised we managed to do it without any errors.
It's magic. When you come on the DevOps Directive office hours, that's what happens. We've set a precedent. We've set a precedent.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Bye.